listening to Sam and Carl on PSH Radio. Voices of the Paranormal. Good evening, everybody. It is Sam here with your usual PSH radio show. We do apologise. Unfortunately, we didn't have a show last week due to a little bit of scheduling. I am on my own hosting the show this evening because Carl's still feeling a little bit under the weather. A little bit about this sound hopefully sounds a little bit different to everybody because we've finally been able to sort out all his new techie bits, so we bring a more crispier and the sound to our interviews, hopefully. Anyway, this is obviously the first time that we're actually going live using this. I shall introduce our guest in a little while. Just a quick one, guys. If anybody is tuning in, if you're first tuning in, there is a chat room available. You can click on the link. If you click on the link, any social media, Twitter, Facebook, whichever, it shall take you to the chat room, and you can interact with that, ask our guest any questions and things like that. So I shall get this evening guest on this evening, and we are joined by Branden Powers, all the way from across the pond in Las Vegas, from the Golden Tiki. Obviously, of course, he's not actually at the Golden Tiki right now, but good evening / good afternoon, Branden. How are you?
Hello. How's it going? I really love your intro music. It's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Sam.
No problem.
It's great to be here.
We know, as soon as you were on that certain TV show, which we'll mention later on, I was like, I need to get him on.
Cool. Awesome.
So, would you like to tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I am, the long story short of it is, I'm an old school underground promoter from California, one of the original rave promoters in North America. Moved to Las Vegas about 20 years ago, was the creative director at the Hard Rock, then went on and opened up my own, businesses here. I own Evil Pie, EVEL, like Evil Knievel. And, I partnered up with Evil Knievel's family for a pizza place downtown Las Vegas, and it's one of the most popular pizza spots in Las Vegas. I know that everyone over there are huge Evil Knievel fans, and or at least I like to think so. And I also own the Golden Tiki in Chinatown, Las Vegas, and it's kind of like an adult Disneyland on acid or of some sorts. It's all of the craziness out of my bizarre mind, and it has animatronic talking parrots. It has a headhunters area with about 100 celebrity shrunken heads, and it has a pirate's lair, and very fun, very great place to get like tropical drinks set on fire, and really interesting. And ever since we started building it, we've had lots of interesting occurrences happen. I've been a bit of a skeptic all these years. My father passed away in '99, and I've had some interesting things that have happened, and kind of on some type of level of communication, I guess, between us over the last 20 years. But nothing to the level of what I've experienced at the Golden Tiki and my newest residence. And sorry if that was a long intro.
It's fine.
Yeah, I kind of go off on tangents.
It's completely fine. That's what we like, because we know who you are, obviously, but some of his listeners might not know who you are. So
right.
Cause we were a bit because we've been Las Vegas a few times, and then as a friend said about obviously the Golden Tiki, and we were like, we need to go to this place, and then last time we didn't, and we're like, why didn't we go?
It's the only place you need to go when you come to Las Vegas.
I know, right? Hopefully next time we're there, we'll...
Yeah, most definitely. Let me know.
Yeah. So I want to first off start this interview now because you sent me a few photos via Messenger, didn't you, about some symbols?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is there's a lot of things that the Ghost Adventures, Chinatown Poltergeist, the episode leaves out that I think are really interesting, almost warrant another episode. And there are some things that came to light since the episode that I thought were pretty interesting. So those symbols, I had the occurrence that happened when they were filming Ghost Adventures. I came home and I noticed this kind of wavy. I talked about it in the thing, and they say I looked like I'm disturbed by it, which I was. But it was kind of like a dark energy, like flying old school specter kind of, like you would see in with a tattered cloth and kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It was all an energy, and it flew kind of like across my living room. And at that same moment, my son, Jake, was upstairs sleeping, and he started talking in his sleep, and he started sleepwalking and crying. And at the same moment that I saw that energy, and I thought that was really peculiar. And then a couple of my neighbors saw the episode, and they're like, "Hey, did you know there was a lady who actually died of cancer at your house?" And it's been really weird. And then those symbols, which I showed you that are on the tree outside, mm-hmm. I have no idea what those symbols are. I don't know if they're any kind of, pagan, some kind of witchcraft, or just symbols that a kid drew and it means nothing. I have no idea. But they're rather interesting. And if somebody out there knows, please let me know. And I found that's, to me, they seem like they're a little bit dark in nature, and I don't know what to think of it. But I have noticed every night around 3 a.m. at the same time, I'm a pretty light sleeper, and these are, I share my kids with my ex, and I have them half the week, and then I don't have them the other half. And even on the days that they're not here, I've heard footsteps every night, and we're upstairs, come down our hallway and stop at our door, our bedroom door. And it's been really interesting. And I'm always thinking, when kids are here, I'm thinking it's Jake sleepwalking again. Mm-hmm. But when you're not there, it's kind of, it's a little disturbing to say the least. But now it's just happened so much that I kind of don't pay it any mind. And also, I've been hearing in our room at night, it sounds like the nails on the paw of like a dog walking around. Now, we have dogs that are downstairs, and we kennel them at night, so it's not one of our dogs. So I don't know if it's a ghost dog, but it's rather interesting. I hear that in our room, and then right around the same time that I hear the footsteps come down the hallway. So it's just like, so I'm not so disturbed with it that I got to leave it, and it's like Poltergeist the movie. It's just like one of those things that I live with, and it's a relatively new house. I think it was only built like probably in the 80s or 90s, and I'm sure where you guys are at, you have a long history of lots of people passing in various structures and residents and so forth, and here it's not that common. So, that's the craziness that's going on at our house right now. We thought it was just following us here, and it very well could have been that one night. It could have definitely followed me, because I haven't experienced anything like that again. Although my wife Lisa and me sometimes see things out of the corner of our eye, where you like see things moving, and you're like, oh, that's just my imagination or whatnot. But we both have seen similar things when it comes to that. So definitely think there's some kind of presence here, and still attached to our residents.
So obviously, with you saying that you can hear dogs, nails, claws, walking on the floor at night. So have you got a wooden floor or a tiled floor? Yeah.
So it's a wooden floor, and you know how it sounds. You know how dogs have that. They sound like they're basically walking on their nails, kind of thing, right? It and to me, it feels like it was a bigger dog. I don't know why I think that. It just has that, I don't know, feeling, I guess. Maybe it's the pattern of the footsteps. But I do think that's kind of interesting. And what we've seen, my son likes to sleep all the time, fully covered. He's scared of the dark or whatever. And all of his windows in his room at night will be open. And that's to help him also get up early in the morning. But, then he'll fully be covered and everything. And he's a pretty bright kid. And I've seen him act in peculiar ways where, you've seen enough Exorcist movies or whatnot, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And then you're like, oh, that's nothing. Or that's just him having an overactive imagination, or we don't allow him to watch anything like that. So I don't know if at his mom's house, he has access to YouTube or watches things that get his mind going. But I've seen behaviors and actions where like anger or weird stares or things like that. They're like, okay, that's kind of creepy. But, you're like, all right, well, he's not spitting up pea soup, so it's nothing to worry about here. But it has been kind of interesting to the fact that, like, should I, like, get somebody to wave some sage above his head or splash him with holy water? I have no idea, So we're kind of like the reluctant possessed house, I guess.
Well, hopefully
we're
not
like, all right, it's cool, as long as he doesn't start levitating. Yeah, so that has, that has been kind of interesting. Like, we're not, I'm not trying to make this up to get any, brownie points with your listeners. It's just really interesting what goes down at our house and what happens. I don't think this is a common occurrence amongst everyone's home. But definitely at the Golden Tiki, the things there, there's multiple entities and spirits that are there, and are still there. And my GM, since we've been in lockdown with the quarantine for COVID, and we've been closed for 3 months. And my GM about several weeks ago started going back in to get everything up and running, doing his work out of the office. And he told me himself, and he's brand new. He's pretty much brand new. He's only been with us probably about a month before quarantine at the most. And he says that he'll be doing work at his desk, and there's the door in front of him, and it's kind of like the door to the back of the bar area. And he says, like, he notices, like, kind of like a shadow. He's noticed it walk by the door, and he equates it to almost like, hey, like it's a bored ghost or an entity, and he's like just peers in and like, hey, just seeing what's up, and like what's going, that's how he describes it. It's kind of like a ghost still seeing if somebody's there. And I'm sure they're pretty lonely lately because our bar is usually full of people all the time. We're open 24/7, and there's all kinds of energy for them to feed off of. And it's a fun place, and there's people drinking, and it's just, it's something like a spirit or would really be into. So I think they've been a little saddened that where did all the people go, Yeah. And probably, we're, like they say in the show, we're excited when Zach and his crew were in there to communicate with them. So, that's been in itself pretty interesting. So
with obviously how active the Golden Tiki is, do you know any history behind the building, or?
Yeah, well, the building's probably about 40 years old. And in that part of Chinatown, there's been bodies and stuff that have been found around there over the last 40 years. A lot of, before we took it over and changed it into the Golden Tiki, it was basically a bar where basically hookers and stuff, ladies of the night, they would come and they would wait, and then get their calls and then go to the strip from there. and all other kinds of otherworldly characters would be hanging out there. And then about, what was it? About in the 90s, I believe. I can't remember the exact date that Zach and them found. And we had always heard the rumors. We just never were able to find anything because it was probably before the internet started logging all stories and everything. But we always heard about a shooting and a robbery, and he reenacts that in the show. And it was a previous bar called the Marker Down. And some guys came in and with shirts over their faces and proceeded to shoot up the place. And we don't know. We know that there was a person or persons that was in critical condition, and we don't know if they ever died. Now, Vegas history, anything like that happens, they have, over the last 4 decades plus, are used to burying that kind of stuff in the media. Like, they don't allow that to get out because it's bad for tourism. It does, and it's almost like an ongoing joke. And as terrible as October 1 shootings were, if the city of Las Vegas could have figured out a way to spin it and bury it, they would have. And that's kind of like what Vegas is known for. So the fact that it was never reported again, to me, it is just basically right in line with the protocol that they've always done. They always bury news like that. So I don't know if the entities that we have in there right now are associated with that. Because there's a bunch. There's the only one that I think that would be related to that is that what everybody calls the old man. And you kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of the old man. Like, they talked about it. I believe it was Aaron that talked about it. He says, "Oh yeah, we're the old man above the bar." He says that in the episode. And the old man is this presence that they see that kind of hangs out above the bar. There's like this area above the bar that it probably has about 8 feet of clearance to the ceiling. And Peter, who's interviewed in there, had several occurrences with the old man, and he's seen him one time. He saw the old man down in the pirate's lair, and he was up in that same area doing some repairs, and he looks down, and there was this dark shadow being kind of an older guy staring back at him, almost like leaning forward in kind of like an aggressive posture. Yeah. We think that majority are really friendly and happy and fine. The little girl, the ashtray that is moving on the table that I took video of, and I'm very aware of being in the bar business for over 20, 30 years. I'm very aware of condensation under glassware. Condensation, I know, moves glasses across. We've all seen it. You've seen glass on glass, and the glass will move. Well, this is a plastic ashtray, and it's got a good amount of drag to it. And my friend was sitting next to me. She was from San Diego and visiting, and we saw it move. We saw it move for a while before I even got my camera out. And I lifted it up. I checked under the ashtray. There's no condensation. I looked for that. You'll see in the video, I'll move my hand. I don't know if they edited that out or if it's in there. I'll move my hand across the ashtray to say there's no strings. And it kept on doing it. And it was right after she would ash her cigarette into the ashtray would move. So I have a friend of mine who's a witch. She lives in Ireland. And I sent her pictures and of the booth, and I sent her the thing, and I didn't tell her about the ashtray and about moving and whatnot. And she said, he loves being in the bar. He loves sitting at that booth. And he says he likes to sit at that booth because his son visits him there. And sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. And that his picture is underneath the glass. And she wouldn't know this in a million years. Well, like I said, my father died in 99, and I have taken everything from a passport photo to other photos, and I put them around the bar, and under the glass right there on that table, she had no idea of knowing, is a picture of my father. And that booth is the booth that I always sit at when friends come or when I take business meetings. I'm always sitting in that booth. So Zach didn't put that part in the story, but we think that that's actually my father's spirit. And I've had, like I said, I've had things that have happened where I get like pennies, and I've had other people talk about pennies or dimes with their loved ones, and they'll show up in the most random places. I'll get out of bed, and the one will roll down my leg, or one will be on top of my shoe, or like just weird occurrences, so much that it happens that my family have like all tuned into it. And I'll go into a parking spot. Okay, that's a common place where pennies will fall out of people's whatever, but there'll be one right when I get out, and there won't be another one in any other parking spot around there, things like that. It's kind of like the old pennies from heaven scenario. So we think that one is more or less tied to my father. And then there's the little girl, like I said. And then there's the entity that pushes people in the where Rob, the manager, said that he was pushed in the hallway there. And I don't know which one that would be tied to, but we have another story where Shelley, who's a bartender of ours, who was interviewed, but her interview didn't make it. And she was at the bar, and we have these red glass candle holders. They're kind of heavy. And one flew off the back bar and buzzed right by her ear. And that was witnessed by a few people. And the other, a few months ago, we were all sitting talking, and a tub filled with glassware shot off of its table that it's rests on and landed behind the bar, filled with glassware, nothing vibrating around it, nothing that could have made that happen. And that was a pretty interesting moment as well. It's easy for me to like grasp them being able to move small things like pennies. Yeah. Ashtrays, I think, would take a little bit more energy, but to move an entire tub of glassware or even throw a glass candle holder, to me, is like, whoa, that's some crazy stuff. And then you saw the video of the table. It's not the best video in the world. And you hear that ashtray fly across the room when they're doing that girl's interview. That was totally live right then and there. I was standing like in between them and where the ashtray happened, and it was just really freaky that happened right when they were interviewing that girl about the table exploding. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting as well, and obviously because it's like, bar area, and yeah, you could just imagine the energy in there as well, especially if you have a full house. So yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't know where the little girl came from though. Like that's kind of weird. I have no idea why the little girl's energy is there or attracted to the spot. I don't know if she comes with the entity that is in that hallway as well. They seem to have their favorite spots in the bar. Another thing is the picture that you posted. There's another picture with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just needed one for your promo. I know which one you're on about.
You are?
I just needed one for your promo. I know which one you're on about. There was two, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but one has, so after they filmed Ghost Adventures, Rob, the manager who was interviewed, and I were going in there, and we're like, the whole place, we're just like electrical. Like the whole place, you can just feel it in the air. Like, feels like you just drank 12 cups of coffee. It's really weird. And we're talking about it, and we're like, yeah, like snap some photos and see if we get any orbs or stuff, because in that room there's usually orbs. And what's weird is we didn't know what they captured, the orbs that they captured, and the energy that they film in that pirate room going on the sofa. It's really interesting that they caught that. We didn't know. They didn't tell us. until we saw it air. But in the photo that Rob catches, but I don't know if you have it, but there's the one that has like a white kind of thing next to me. Now that could be dust or it could be whatever, but it was only in that one frame. And if you don't have that, I'll try to find it and send it to you. And you can almost see like a face in it. It's kind of creepy. But we thought that was kind of interesting. And then if I would have known too, like how Zach was doing his investigation, he comes in with his cameras and stuff, and he's pointed towards the entrance with his cameras, and he catches the one orb type thing on the table that kind of looks semi-intelligent or whatever, and is going on across the high top table. Well, if he would have turned that camera around, the booth right behind him, where he was probably standing, is where we have all kinds of activity. We can't take a photo. 9 out of 10 photos will have orbs appear in the photos without a doubt. And they'll be blocking people's faces. They'll be, all kinds of things. So the fact that he actually caught that independently near that table was really interesting for us as well, because he had no idea, and we never even told him, like, hey, shoot this booth or do that. We just kind of let him. We wanted to see what he would find,
Yeah. So which booth is that? Because we've heard stories about a certain booth in your place.
Well, so that booth that I'm talking about, we call the BS corner, just because it has a little plaque that says that, and it's a lower rounded horseshoe type booth that's in the corner there next to the DJ booth, and that's where there's usually a lot of our waitresses have noticed. Our Asia, who's our head waitress, she's noticed throughout the years orbs always appearing in that area. So you have that booth, and then you have the middle booth where the people had the broken glass, and that the waitress just came there. It was tempered glass. She didn't set anything on top of it. She didn't break it. She just lifted up their scorpion bowl, their drinking bowl, from the table, and the table just shatters. And I have a picture of the shattered glass I never even knew existed, that somebody had taken that night. And that entire table just shattered. And that was super interesting. I've never seen anything like that before happen. And I've never seen glass on these tables. It's a thick glass, and it's a tempered glass. And like he says, it takes thousands and thousands of pounds of pressure per inch to break it. So that was really interesting. We have noticed various lights and things going off. Somebody had actually said on one of the forums about, they debunked the washing machine for our glassware as it was going on. Well, they had us go through and turn off all the electricity, turn off everything. So the fact that was even on and running, I don't think any of us forgot. And somebody had to press it for it to go on, and they said, "Oh, that was debunked." But we thought that was still odd that happened. And then the back booth by the waterfall is the booth where I filmed the movie Ashtray. And we've had psychics at the bar and people that have been standing by the bar near that table and have said, "This table is really interesting. There's somebody here," and they basically have described the same person that the witch described, somebody that loves being there and they love hanging out in that booth. And I like to kind of think that that's my pops, but who knows? But yeah, the Golden Tiki is it's a pretty interesting haunting. It's not your typical, at least I don't know. I'm not really familiar. I mean, but to me, to have its cast of characters that it has is pretty interesting.
So, do you mind, like, obviously after the show, do you mind me, like, sharing all the photos and that? And because I'm sure my listeners are probably like, why? Where are these photos?
Yeah. I'll send you the glass photo. Yeah. I'll send you the photo. I don't know if you have the photo of me with I think is kind of a spirit. I mean, somebody may be like, "Oh, that's just a reflection of dust," but it didn't appear in the photos before or after. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, and I'll share that stuff with you, no problem.
Cool. So, with you, I just want to know about your animatronic parrots for a little while. So, are they like? Are they motion censored, or do you move twitch them on yourselves, or?
They're on a timer, and we call them the foul-mouthed fowl, or the bad news birds, and they're very dirty. They're the ones that didn't make it to Disneyland, so they cuss and tell jokes, and they're very vulgar, and we've had those things. We've had those things go on when they were supposed to be off as well, and interesting things that happened with them. In fact, they went on the other day with my GM there alone, and it scared the crap out of them. And they weren't supposed to be on because we weren't open yet, and we didn't start those again. And then missing things, we've noticed lots of things get moved, and or they end up missing. We just think, oh, that's just part of owning a bar or whatnot. We don't know if it's the ghost messing with us. The one thing that happened to Zach that is really interesting too is they say that the booth moved, that booth with the broken glass. They how did the booth move? And it's a very heavy booth. Well, what's really interesting about that is I can't tell you how many times I've gone in there in the morning after everyone's gone, and that booth, that has happened with that booth has moved out like that. Yeah. And I just chalk it up for people moving the booth. I this whole time thought it was just customers moving the booth, but it happens all the time. And somebody on one of the forums said that they noticed that there was an ashtray back there on the ground behind the booth that had been moved. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And they love throwing the ashtrays are I guess easy for them to throw because they're not that heavy, but there's whoever's moving the booth and the tubs of glassware and throwing the candle thing, that takes a lot of energy to do. So that being is a pretty powerful one, I would think.
Yeah, well, I guess they probably just want your attention, though, sometimes, don't they? Especially if it's quiet, because obviously, like you say, you've been shut for, 3 months, and when your general manager's obviously gone in now, they're like, oh, you're back, are you?
yeah, they're excited that he's back, yeah. And he said that, he's been a big, doubter, I guess, and he's like, whoa, this is nuts, he would hear footsteps come up right to the door and then look out and there'd be nobody, or he'd have the door open. Like I said, it felt like the entity was checking in going, okay, you're still here. What's going on? And then the birds going on, and then he's heard ashtrays and things fall, or be thrown. So it's a pretty interesting, and we embrace it. We love it. And I was kind of leery. I didn't know if, announcing this to the world would be the smartest thing to do for business, Yeah. If had some people who were like, oh, I'm not going there, I'm scared. But we just think it's another interesting tale of the many tales of the Golden Tiki. It's just another layer of what makes it a fun and unique, interesting bar.
Yeah. So obviously now it's out in the world, because obviously you've been on Ghost Adventures. Have you found since the episode's aired, or anyone knows that, if you found more people have come to you and said, oh, I visited there and I got this, I witnessed that, this happened and all that?
We've had, what's been really interesting is Ghost Adventures followers have been really kind. They've left me 5-star reviews on Yelp and Google and the other day, though, one left a 5-star review, and I don't know if they've actually ever been to the Golden Tiki. They've been awesome and been really kind to our business. But one said she gave us 5 stars, and I don't know it verbatim, and if you might want to, I think it's under our Google, and I'll try to send you a picture of that. But she said that she felt like something followed her home, is what I remember it saying. It was something akin to that, and I thought that was pretty interesting. We've been shut down during the majority of all of its airings, so I don't think it's had any kind of really negative or positive. I mean, I think there's going to definitely be some people who are definitely into the paranormal, and they want to come and investigate it themselves, and they want to come there and experience it. So I think it's been a great experience so far. I've seen more good than bad from it. Yeah. So it's been okay. I think if we were open during this time when it's been its full force of airing as many times as it has, we probably would have been able to get a lot more benefit from it airing, Mm-hmm. But I'm fine with it. I mean, we were a popular bar before. We still are a popular bar. We're just having to operate now at less than half of our capacity for social distancing reasons and whatnot. So it's just another interesting layer to the Golden Tiki. I have, sitting in the office right now, I have the witch from Ireland sent me a full kit, salts and sage or different oils, whatever. I don't even know what's in the kit. I haven't even opened it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to open it. I feel like they're cool co-inhabitors. Now, if it gets a little dark or it starts getting whatever, then okay, time to leave the party. But I just think that I'm just going to let them do their thing, and as long as they're cool, I'm cool, and I don't have to pull out the Ghostbusters kit,
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about even with my house. I'm not like worried about it. I don't feel like. I mean, maybe I'll stage the place and open up the windows and do whatever. But if there's a lady that she died here and this was her home and she feels comfortable here, or her dog or whatever's here, I could live side by side with my spirits, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking to push them out anywhere.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? Because we know a few people who live in who've got spirits in the home and that, and they just live with it because they just see it as, well, they were here before us, so until they start
right.
attacking you or anything like that, we'll just live with them.
Yeah, exactly. If they're cool and like scratching me up, or Jake isn't levitating and from the second floor window, I'm cool with that. So I think that's the route we're gonna go. We're gonna embrace our spirits at the Golden Tiki and just make them a part of the reason why you visit.
Yeah.
So.
That's good, and they probably, while you've been gone anyway, they've probably had a big party,
Exactly. I mean, shoot, it's typical for like my father. I think that he's hung around as long as he has because he just wants to make sure I'm cool, and I'm sure he likes being social and being in there. I've never felt like he was ever at where I buried him. I buried him in California in Ventura. I hardly even visit his gravesite because I just don't feel like his energy is there, mm-hmm. and just my occurrences and what has happened. So I'm totally sure that him and whoever else is hanging out there is just having a great time because it's a fun bar, whether you're dead or alive. So it's the number one bar in the afterlife.
Probably like any bar, but it's Vegas, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously, going on about your home a little bit. So obviously, you said before you've got pets. So if your dog's reacted to anything before, or
well, it's interesting. I have 2 dogs. I have Molly, who's really sketchy, and she'll bark at anything and everything. And then I have Little Bear, and he's the newest one. He's a little Shih Tzu, and Little Bear does the most interesting things where he just like looks up and looks at things that you're like, what the hell is he looking at? And Molly, who knows what she's barking at half the time. It could be the neighbors on the other side of us. It could be shadows. It could be things that she hears, or it could be things that she's seeing. I have no idea. But the interesting things, it is interesting that Little Bear kind of just looks at these random things and aren't there half the time. You're like, he's either a very special dog or he's actually seeing something that we're not seeing. So, who knows with that, but yeah, definitely. I think Little Bear, he sees something for sure.
Yeah. 'Cause they do say, don't they, that pets and that can sometimes see what we can't see and hear what we can't hear.
I'm sure. Yeah. Fully.
I guess it's one of them though, isn't it? Until your dogs start levitating as well, you're alright.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe I need to put more dog food out for the ghost dog. I don't know. Yeah, the ghost dog thing just started happening just kind of recently, and I just thought that was really interesting. Because you don't think about that. You don't think about ghost pets. At least I don't. Unless it was a Stephen King novel or something. But I don't. I just thought it was really interesting to hear that. And to hear the footsteps. The footsteps are really, really odd. And they always end right at my door. So,
interesting.
Who knows?
Yeah, it could be just residual though, couldn't it? Because obviously, if you've not really seen them, or you've just seen shadows, it could just be residual, back and forth to the bedroom or whatever. So,
right. Yeah, and I'd like to know about the symbols. I don't know if there was somebody here previously that practiced something or did something, or they almost look like Eye of Horus, kind of like all-seeing eyes.
Yeah, that's because you obviously sent to us, so we sent them me, and I showed me co-host, obviously, and we've been Googling it, as you do, go down the rabbit hole.
Right.
But we just find it, interesting as much as you do, because obviously I will share it on Facebook, guys. See what everybody's views are, because obviously it'd be interesting to see what everyone else thinks. But it was when we were looking into the symbols you sent us, to me it looks like has it been burnt? Do you think it's been burnt, or has it been chiseled into the tree? Because it looks from your photo that it's been burnt into the tree.
Yeah, it looks like somebody. It looks like somebody scraped it with something, and then it grew, and then darkened like it did. So yeah, I don't know what was used to carve that. It's definitely not natural.
No, because even the shape of it, because we can obviously see the natural lines of the trees and the creases of the trees. Right. Anyway, but we were just like, that is interesting, and like I say, we tried to Google it, and we can't obviously find anything at the moment. But as soon as we looked at them, we think it's spiritually / runey, if that makes sense.
Right.
So
sure.
So obviously that could be the whole of it, could be protection or things like that. You could, I think it's one of them where you could just go down a complete massive rabbit hole to find out, Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they're protection symbols. I don't know. It's just interesting. I've never seen any symbols on any other trees in this neighborhood like that, and so it's rather interesting that. They're there, and all this stuff has been happening and occurring, Yeah. So obviously, we've seen. So from seeing from their photo, is that the angle is going up to your house, or the angle of the photo?
Yeah, I mean, if you want, I could send a video and try to show you more of the neighborhood and the house, or if you want me to shoot, I probably shot that from the sidewalk or from my carport area. kind of around that area of the tree. So yeah, no, if you pass by on the street, it would be facing, it would be facing towards the street, but more towards, you can't really tell where I'm living. So if I say south, it doesn't mean anything, but, yeah. So it's just, but, it's just really, it's interesting that it's there. So,
and yeah, like I found it interesting as well, because obviously your neighbours watched the episode and then they told you about the lady who obviously sadly passed in your house. So.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's weird that like the neighbor lady across the street from me, she's probably in her 60s, but she collects like all these like weird like death, dolls that were made like, you know what I mean, like just these creepy like miniature versions of Freddy Krueger, whatever, you know what I mean, like she's not your normal 60-year-old lady. And her husband is neighbor Dan. He's a really cool guy, and he's the one that brought that up about the neighbors, and I showed him the episode and whatnot. So he said that was really interesting, that because somebody had died there. I still feel like the energy I saw that night was more or less tied to the bar and followed me home with the bar, because I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Before or since, and or ever. And so that was just really interesting, what I saw. So, I don't know if that followed me. And I thought it was really interesting too in the episode where the ashtray gets thrown and the girl on the phone is talking about how her lights are flickering.
Yeah.
And the flickering light thing happens all the time at the Golden Tiki. So, which I didn't know what she said, and I didn't know to editing, but if I would have been able to, or if I can go back, and when there's ever an episode talking more about the Golden Tiki episode, this is stuff that I could present to them or show them, that the light flickering thing is definitely happened at the Golden Tiki a bunch.
Interesting. I just love all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
What else? Anything you want to discuss or anything, Brandon? Because we've got like 10 minutes.
Oh, we got 10 minutes. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just an hour flies by.
Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain. I think that's pretty much everything that we have there going on, and like I invite all your listeners and stuff, if they want to come to the Golden Tiki, and for being your listener, I'll give you my email out. It's Brandon, Branden, not Don. It's Branden at the Golden, Golden, Tiki, Tiki.com. If you send me an email and say that you heard me on this and you're in Las Vegas, I will make sure that you get one of the haunted booths, buy your first round of drinks, and take care of you, and show you a good time while you're in Las Vegas. So keep my email and just email me. I'm easy to reach, and I look forward to meeting people. And I thank you so much for your time and for having me on the show.
No problem.
And I'll try to think of 8 more minutes of things to talk about.
Well, nothing's really happened though, has it? Because of this virus thing, so.
I feel bad because you asked me one question and then I answer like 7 in one time.
No, it's fine.
So.
That's what we like, so.
You're like, yeah, tell me about this. And then I'm like, okay. And you're like, all right, great. Now I got to like fill up the other 30 minutes.
So, we'll talk a little bit about the Golden Tiki for a little bit anyway. So when are you guys... You guys are already open now, aren't you? Did you open the other day again?
Yeah, we opened... was it June 5th? We reopened from quarantine. They're making us limit our capacity to less than half, which for social distancing, so every other table... I don't know if you guys are having to go through all that. But so every other table is occupied. The bar seats, instead of having 25 seats at the bar, I have like 6 now. So it's from my old promoter stand, my underground rave days of throwing big festivals and stuff. And my reptilian mind freaks out whenever I see my bar less than half full, but it's as full as we can get it right now. We've been very fortunate. People are making reservations and are reserving their spaces, and they value their time and grabbing a table. I'm hoping that we'll be able to one of these days move almost back to normal, and that we'll be able to have our live shows and live things happen more frequently and have the magic of the Golden Tiki. I have some really cool It's a Small World style Disneyland hula girls that are coming July 1st. And if you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World, the It's a Small World ride, there's the hula girls. And so I have them coming to the Golden Tiki, and they're going to be doing hulas up above the bar where the old man spirit hangs out. And so those will be in July 1st. And the Golden Tiki is filled with all kinds of surprises, and a lot are adult themed. And it's just a really fun, unique, quirky, weird. Like when you come to Vegas or picture Vegas, you picture finding one of these. At least I used to finding one of these quirky, off the beaten path bars that's just like, whoa, this is like the coolest. Yeah. You never expect it. You're in a strip mall in Chinatown, basically, and you're like, okay, what's this? And then you go into the first room, the antechamber, and there's a waterfall, and there's Pirates in the Caribbean music and stuff playing, and then you open up the wooden door, and it creaks open, and you go in, and your eyes are adjusting, and it's just this magical world, and there's a starry night sky, and there's the foul-mouthed parrots, and the shrunken heads, and all the tiki stuff, and a great crew. I'm very fortunate to have awesome people that work with us, and great bartenders, great cooks and cocktail waitresses, and our DJs are phenomenal. And it's just not that typical wedding music you would hear at every lounge or bar or club in Vegas. This is, we're playing everything from 40s, 50s, 60s on up, and more or less a tiki and exotica kind of vibe. And we're spinning real vinyl, and we have a giant clamshell that you can take a picture in, and it's just a fun spot.
Sounds amazing. And I obviously know what you guys do from following you on social media anyway, so.
Right. Yeah, we have some interesting stuff, to say the least. Yeah. I encourage everybody, male and female, to check out the museum in the women's restroom. So it's definitely the talk of the town, and it's narrated by yours truly. And so Steve Wynn, he got to narrate the majestic white tigers at the Mirage, and I narrate basically the wonderful world of phalluses that can be found inside the women's restroom. So that in itself is definitely has, I think, its own Facebook following.
Yeah, that definitely sounds very, very interesting, that one.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not say on this podcast, so I'm trying to keep it as PC.
No, it's on explicit anyway, so you're fine.
Okay, all right. So yeah, no, I mean it's definitely an interesting museum in there.
Great stuff. So I want to thank you, Brandon, for coming on this afternoon, because it seems forever since we've spoken and organised this interview, but luckily it's come round pretty quickly. So, and I'm sure we shall get you on again at some point, and obviously if we're in Vegas, because we are in Vegas next year, we shall I'll keep in contact with you and things like that, and we can hopefully sort something out. So before I say good night, guys, thank you everybody for tuning in, everybody in the chat room, and join us next week. Good night, everybody.